help make Cape Town safer. Yesterday, or a couple of days ago, I spent time in Scottsville talking to residents in their homes. Resident after resident told me the same thing I now hear all over the city, that when the gangsters start shooting, it is always the city's law enforcement and Metro Police who respond first and who are most visible in their streets. Even though we just have 1/10 of the resources of the SAPS, ons is op het, ons bring ons kant. Just this week, I attended a mass training session for what we call Project 1000, an initiative to train 1,000 new officer recruits in order to grow our policing resources and help SAPS fight crime. While we could do so much more with the full investigative powers to help keep criminals locked up, our visible policing and crime prevention efforts are showing very, very promising results. Whether it be by taking 447 illegal firearms off the street, making 8,000 drug arrests, or hundreds of drug raids, all of these numbers mean fewer guns, less drugs, safer streets for thousands of Cape Townians. But our safety plan is not just about more well-trained boots on the ground. It also includes a massive investment in safety and security technology, as well as vehicles. This year, we will spend 363 million rand on equipment like body cameras, drones, radios, and firearms, as well as expanding our CCTV footprint. It also includes new state-of-the-art ISR technology, which stands for Information, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, and which we will soon start using in the skies above Cape Town. Just yesterday, we welcomed our newest high-tech technology investments in the safety space, 2 brand new firearm simulators out of America, which will help our officers go through the paces of facing extremely stressful firearms scenarios and situations before they face those things on the streets. They should be well trained, able to cope with the instantaneous split-second decision making that they have to do in those scenarios. And we always want the best training and best possible technology for our officers. And of course, this budget also covers a large fleet of new vehicles. Stretching off, as I said, to either side of me this morning are just some of the 312 new vehicles we are welcoming to our arsenal. And it is truly impressive to see them gather together like this. We're also investing 57 million rand to equip our vehicles with dash cams. There are also further investments in emerging policing incident vehicles, disaster management volunteer vehicles, and operational support vehicles. I'd like to point out that we've also made a substantial investment in new motorcycles, which are here today, and unmarked ghost vehicles to respond efficiently and to chase down suspects on our roads. Every car, every bakkie, every truck, every new motorcycle in our safety fleet is an investment in the peace of mind of Cape Townians. I consider these vehicles to be among the most important investments the city could make in the safety space. And I think it's important that residents know the impressive nature and scale of our investment gathered here today. You cannot put a price on the safety of our communities, but you can spend what you have wisely to make the biggest possible impact on crime prevention, traffic safety, firefighting, and disaster response. And so I want every Cape Townian to know, and I want every Cape Townian to be assured that this is precisely what this government will do. We will make every rand work hard for the residents, and we will never stop working to make Cape Town a safer place for all. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, in terms of the section 2.1, questions to the Mayor, the following parties have an opportunity to ask a question. The UIM. Okay, while we get the UIM to come on board, the next party will be the Freedom Front Plus, then other, then the ACDP, and then the AIC. Mr. De Beer, Councillor De Beer.
Yeah, very good morning, Madam Speaker, Mr. Mayor, and our fellow colleagues. It is so great in this period of election that we all are truly so much loving each other. Madam Speaker, Mr. Mayor, good morning. Good to see you on the streets as always. And I think that is the only thing that can change. Mr. Mayor, the fact that the city of every day increases its capacity to bring in the gap and to establish law enforcement structures to make a safer city for our citizens is very clear. But one question is continually coming up, and indeed I get asked that every day, is the fear that at this current moment in time on the extension and the continuation of the LEAP program, no doubt to be partnered with province. And the question to you would be, can we and are we preparing to look beyond 2026 to the extension, Mr. Mayor, of this most critical program, which has bring much more boots on the ground to us. And it would be tremendously shocking if we cannot continue with this program up to date. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to respond?
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Councillor De Beer. Thank you always for the constructive role that you play and the immense support that you offer to our uniformed staff, very often out there on the ground helping with their duties and doing voluntary patrols, and also the service that you provide on CIVOC. And let me say, LEAP is not going anywhere. The Premier has made it very clear. You can see even in his election manifesto that he has committed that if he is re-elected, that LEAP will continue. And I think that just makes all the more important the decision that voters in Cape Town make on the 29th of May, that LEAP has been a tremendous success. It has been one of the only bright lights in a very, very dark space in the battle against crime around South Africa. Unfortunately, the SAPS is slowly but surely losing that battle, if we are honest with ourselves and look at the crime statistics. But here has been a little bright light shining in that dark space with LEAP, and so I really do hope that we make the right decision so that we can continue with LEAP. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There was an error. It's not the AIC, it's the ANC. But we move now to the Freedom Front Plus. No. Councillor Jacobson, are you available for your question? Otherwise, we'll move on. All right. Over there. Okay. Carry on.
Am I audible? I was trying to unmute.
Yes, you are.
Thank
Carry
you.
on.
As I was saying, one thing we love to do in the city, Honourable Mayor, is show off the city's accolades. We love that. Second spot in Time Out magazine, fourth best city, Condé Nast Travellers, etc., etc. But we also love boasting about our successful evictions and matters in the court. But the one huge celebration that we should be celebrating right now is the finding in the Supreme Court with regard to the Tafelberg School, where the city was the second respondent, and the court found that we had no obligation to assign affordable housing there. This case has bogged down the city and the province for 10 years. It's unnerved property owners to business and businesses in the area. Sir, why is it that neither the province, the city, nor our ward councillor are celebrating this landmark case victory? And may I suggest, could it be because Premier Windi already has promised Intufuna quasi-affordable housing there, and now the courts have suddenly found differently in our favour? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you very much, Councillor Jacobson. I agree that the ruling must be celebrated. I think that you are mistaken Sir, the Premier actually did put out a statement welcoming that judgment, and I can have that forwarded to you. I felt that it was mainly the ambit of the remit of the Premier to speak on that judgment, since he was the main respondent and the city was only a subsidiary respondent. But let me say, if there is any confusion, that I absolutely welcome the judgment and welcome some specific comments of the unanimous, let it be said for the record, unanimous judgment of the Supreme Court, that the provincial government operated an extremely fair and transparent sale process for that land. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it, and nothing wrong with their affordable housing and social housing policies, and they're not obligated to supply social housing or affordable housing at that particular site. So that is to be welcomed, and I am very, very clear on that. So I think the Premier did speak on it, but if there's any opportunity for me to add to his celebration, then I do so now happily.
Thank you. Councillor Jacobs from Ara. Councillor Jacobs, are you there?
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Mayor, this is Councillor Grant. I'm speaking I'm speaking about this matter quickly. The Mayor likes to boast about his stories and his city of hope. And I want to make a comment that, it doesn't take a DA or the DA to make the city work. It takes every single citizen. But I want to say that, this city of hope has failed our citizens so many times. And let me give you a story. See that you like stories, Mr. Mayor. A story of a lady called Natalie Bucas, 24-year-old, of number 14D, Altuster Road in Lavendale, which 3 weeks ago lost a grandfather. They've been living for 50 years in a home, and she's been growing up in that home. It is a city rental unit. And while her father died in that same week, the city came, law enforcement officers, and bolted the house closed. The lady haven't even laid her father or grandfather to rest, and she had to already deal with eviction notices. The stories, Mayor, is going on and going on and going on. There was no due processes followed. There was no eviction notice. And dealing with the grief of losing her grandfather, she had to still deal with this. I'm saying, where is the heart and where is the hope? This is only but one story. What about our young people that are dying every single day? More resources are being spent on policing, more resources are being spent on traffic, but the fact of the matter is the people are still in pain. Our people are still in pain. So the city of hope has failed hopelessly. One resident and many more. The example I'm giving you of Natalie Bucas, number 14D, Altuster Road. Where is the justice for her? If this is a city of hope and we continue on this path and we need other people to fight for them, what is the point? Where is the heart?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for the question. I obviously am unaware of the case of Mrs. Bucas. You're more than welcome to send that through to me, and I will absolutely look into it. Generally, and I can say this with absolute confidence, our officers will not act without a court order. We've had that lesson too many times in the past, and so we will always seek a court order and act when we have one. In the cases that are similar to yours that I have investigated previously, there has always, even though the allegations are sometimes from the residents that there's no court order. In fact, I dealt with one yesterday, that there's an allegation from the residents that there's no court order. I investigated, and indeed there is a court order in place. So if you send that through to me, I will investigate that as well, and happily share the details with you.
Thank you.
Okay, then if I can just say, no, Madam Speaker, can I just say one other thing?
Yes.
Councillor,
Yes,
Councillor, you have to appreciate social progress is evolutionary, not revolutionary. Most of the social progress which claims to be revolutionary, kind of EFF style social progress, is usually not progress at all. It's usually extremely destructive. So you have to try and see the big picture direction that a society or a community is going in. And on that score, there can be no doubt that Cape Town is headed in the right direction, while South Africa is headed in the wrong direction. That is absolutely without question. Every single piece of evidence and data confirms that. 363,000 new jobs over the last 2 years confirms that. The names and stories of the people from the Cape Flats who have got those new jobs confirms that. So it's always easy to say, yes, but look, here is still someone who still has to benefit. Here is still someone who is unemployed. And of course, you will be able to do that for a long time still, Councillor. So if that's going to be your approach, then go for it. But I can tell you, it's not particularly justified by any data, and it misunderstands the overall direction of our city versus the overall direction of our country. The fact is that people are coming here because they see that this is a place where they have hope of finding work, where they have hope of better services and better health care and so on. And we are showing that despite our very serious challenges in South Africa, very, very serious challenges, mainly of poverty and unemployment, all the other challenges flow from those, that we can make progress. Now, 21% unemployment is still 21% too high, of course. It still means that there are more than 1 million people that are looking for work, that we desperately want to be in work. But you must also take a moment to reflect on the fact that it is 16 percentage points lower than the rest of South Africa, and that is very, very significant and worth reflecting on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Christians from the ACDP.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Morning, Mayor. Mayor, thank you for the speech that you gave, and also, showing us and the residents that, the city is being proactive when it comes to crime, etc. But another major issue, if you walk the streets and just engage with residents, is, of course, now I know the city does have, and we've heard about, the 12 billion for this year and the nearly 40 billion over the 3 years with regards to infrastructure. But Mayor, the reality is that, on the ground, people don't know this. They're not informed when it comes to, so all they see is the sewage, the overflows, and, it's become the norm. So my question is, does the city, or are there timelines we can provide residents with to say, listen, and also your area, this is the area that's being prioritized, because we know, for example, there are areas where it's more frequent than others, where, officials are going in every second day, every third day to unblock the drains. Do we have a timeline that we can provide residents with to say, listen, your areas are being prioritized, and this is the rough estimate or guideline, because we know the city is attracting thousands and thousands of people. That's not going to go away. So as we are proactive with safety, can we do the similar thing when it comes to the overflows of sewage?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Christians touches on a very, very valid and topical complaint and concern. When I started out in this term of government, I said up front that the biggest infrastructure challenge in our city is the sewer network. And it absolutely remains so. And when you go to communities where there is huge densification, where populations have tripled or quadrupled in the last decade or so, you will see that there is just a real struggle with our sewer infrastructure in Cape Town. It is totally overloaded. There is a lot of abuse of the infrastructure, where people do use it to dispose of things that should not be going into a sewer network, and all of this means great trouble. We did also have trouble with load shedding. I must say that the city has done amazing work over the last 2 years to try and insulate our sewer network from as much load shedding impact as possible. Obviously, at the moment now, we have got what someone called yesterday bottomless electricity, or uncapped electricity at the moment, because we're heading up to an election. And I'm sure that that's going to change on May the 30th, but our sewer network is reasonably well prepared for load shedding. Most of our pump stations now have generators or solar power or batteries. I will say to you, Councillor Christians, that you're right to raise it. It will take a number of years to see a major improvement, but the work is happening. It is not that we are waiting to invest. We are spending 4 times on pipe replacements than we used to spend 2 years ago. This year we're going to break through the 100-kilometer a year mark for pipe replacements. That's just sewer pipe replacements. I'm not talking about freshwater pipe replacements, just sewer pipe replacements. And so we're getting bigger and better sewer pipes into communities where there are hotspots of overflows. But those pipe replacement projects are long and slow, labor-intensive projects. In some cases, you don't have to dig up the road, but in many cases, you've got to dig up the whole network. So that takes time, just like the investments in load shedding take time. But let me tell you, and I must make a note to send this to you, Councillor Christians, and to send it to anyone who is interested, actually. We track and geolocate every single sewer spill in the city. And the numbers on a monthly basis are steadily tracking downwards. Still far too high, but steadily tracking downwards. So as each area gets those pipe upgrades, you see after that those sewer spills and sewer blockages coming down. And that's exactly the graph and the numbers that we want to see. And that will carry on as we keep hitting those 100-kilometer targets. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Haynes from the ANC.
You can give to Councillor Gabuza, Councillor Speaker. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Gabuza.
Speaker, I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Speaker, may I dwell so much to the issue of crime in the city of Cape Town. But recently, Mayor, 8 people were shot dead in my ward. But you decided to disappear or vanished. You never pitch up to see those people in my ward. I want to know why, Speaker. Thank you very much.
Mayor.
Well, very sadly, Councillor Gabuza, people are killed in Cape Town every day. And in South Africa, there's, I think, 78 or 79 murders in our country every single day. So I cannot possibly go to visit the families of each of the deceased. Also, the report that I received on that particular mass murder, that incident, was, and this was a report from the SAPS, was that the people who were killed were extortionists operating in the area. They were a new extortion gang, and they were killed by a rival extortion gang who was obviously offended or furious and angry that there was a new upstart challenging gang on their turf. So many of these incidents relate to essentially extortion gang turf warfare. Now, of course, that doesn't make it any less sad. The loss of any human life is a tragedy, and those young boys should not have been in an extortion gang, but they also should not have been killed. and I obviously extend my sincere condolences to their families. But it is not possible to go and sympathize with the families of everyone who passes away in the city. But I did yesterday go and spend time with Mr. Mamoti, whose wonderful 16-year-old daughter Zama was very sadly killed innocently. She was just an innocent bystander waiting for her learner transport at Belgravia High, and went to commiserate and extend just a hug. And it was very difficult to know what you can say to a father in that position, but just to sympathize and support him in whatever way that I could.
Thank you. We move on now to section 3, which is applications for leave of absence. Can I ask the Chief Whip, are there any other leave applications?
Yes. Yes, good morning. Good morning, Speaker. The apologies for this morning are as follows. Councillors Adonis, Breinhardt, Sono, Steenberg, August, Woodman, Ahmad, Nungubelanga, McKinney, Tahudin, Potts, Hendricks, Bakari, Janssen, Adenlo, Makasi, and Nielsen. Councillor Tambuza indicated that he will be late, but I see in the iron box that he is present. And then leaving early will be Councillor De Beer. I see now Councillor Shireen August also indicated that she is present. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Are there any other applications for leave of absence which have not been read out?
Speaker?
Yes, Councillor Haynes.
I did not hear the name of Councillor Padella and Councillor Mkrena. If the Chief did not receive the applications as yet, it is in process.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any others? Then we'll move on. Now, in terms of section 4, councillors are reminded to respond to the email received from the councillor support team on their asset verification of their laptops and printers, and to submit photos of those barcodes for both as a matter of urgency to councillor support. So if I can ask you to please ensure that that gets done before the end of the month. And then secondly, my office has been informed that there are still some councillors with outstanding declarations of interest. As per the legal obligation set out in Schedule 7 of the Local Government Municipal Structures Amendment Act and the City's Declaration of Financial Interests Policy, all councillors are obliged to declare their financial interests. So therefore, please submit your declarations of interest as a matter of urgency. And then thirdly, councillors, although we've had verbal support in view of the constitutional imperative that all spheres of government are required to support the development of democracy, and the pressure on councillors at the moment from more political parties to do so for the 29th of May election, as well as to enable the exercising of recess powers, it is recommended that council goes into recess as from the closure of this meeting today until the 30th of May 2024. Where, for good reason, any meeting of the statutory nature is required to take place during this period, it can do so with the Speaker's approval. So we just need to be notified and to process it. So I need to ask for the record, are we all in agreement with the above proposal? And if there's anyone not in agreement, if they put that in the iron box. Can we then assume that everybody is in agreement? Thank you. Councillor supports that. We move on to section 5, and this is official notices. Mr. City Manager, do you have any official notices? Mr. City Manager, if there's no official notices, we'll move on.
There are no official notices, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on then to the confirmation of the minutes. There's a set of minutes for today. This is for the meeting of the 29th of March. Yes. So going through those minutes from pages 5 through to page 85, are there any corrections for these minutes? Can we confirm and sign off on those minutes if there's no objections? Councillor Haynes.
Councillor Gunge is listed in the minutes as being absent without an apology. I can confirm that leave has been approved by my office for him for the last meeting.
Was it approved by the Chief Whip's office?
It was.
It was. Okay, it was. So we'll correct that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, then we adopt the minutes for that meeting and we move on to the remainder of the agenda. So I just want to read out the agreed items. In volume 2A, items 6 through to 12 were agreed. Items 15, 16, 17, and 19 were agreed. In volume 2B, item 21 was agreed. In volume 4, items 27 through to 31 were agreed, and item 34, which was all for noting. In volume 5, items 35 and 36 are agreed, and items 37 and 38 are noted. Are there any parties who wish to raise any comments in regard to the above items which have been agreed? All right, then we move on. There are currently, I'm just looking for my piece of paper now. Sorry, there are currently 195 councillors present, and there are 33 from the ANC, 122 from the DA, 2 from ARA, 6 from the ACDP, 3 from Al Jamar, 4 from the CCC, 1 from Cape Exit, 1 from the CMC, 1 from DI, 3 from the EFF, 4 from Freedom Front Plus, 8 from Good, 4 from the PA, 1 from the PAC, 1 from the UDM, and 1 from the URM present. So for the purposes of the record, we will note those numbers for the voting. We move on then to the remainder of the agenda. Councillor Haynes.
I have counted 39 ANC councillors having gone through the register. If the administration could please check that. Thank you.
All right. If there are people sharing, please indicate in the iron box and the administration will follow up on that. Thank you. Sorry, I've just been shown something else. All right. Can we move on then to the next item, which is item 4? The recommendation appears to on page 1, and the speakers on this are the Mayor. Mr. Mayor. While Mr. Mayor comes on to present the adjustment budget, I just want to say that the officials have corrected that the ANC are more of them are present. So we're now on 200 councillors. Mr. Mayor, are you able to start with item C4? All right, we're going to move on to the next item. We'll come back to C4. Item C5, Councillor Joel. You there, Mr. Mayor?
Hello, Speaker. Yes, I moved the item.
Okay. All right, the item's tabled. Can we note the item and we agree to it? Thank you.
Speaker.
Councillor Haynes.
The ANC have a speaker on this item.
I don't have any record of a speaker on this item.
Please check with the Chief Whip.
I'm checking with the Chief Whip. There's no record of a speaker on this item. Thank you. We move on to item CO5. Councillor Joel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would anticipate that the ANC would give me the opportunity to speak first. Is it correct that I go first?
Speaker.
Please don't interject, Councillor Haynes.
Speaker.
Councillor Haynes, what is your...
Speaker, I've spoken to the Chief Whip 8:30 this morning, to the Chief of 8:30 this morning.
Okay,
About item C4 and item C5, the mistake.
the mistake.
Expected it to be
Okay. All right. So is Councillor Majinga speaking to this item?
Councillor Majingo is not speaking to this item. He's speaking on item 4.
I really do wish we would get this resolved as per the rules beforehand, but okay, we will give Councillor Majinga his opportunity to respond to the Mayor's tabling of the budget.
Thank you,
Okay.
Speaker.
Sorry, Councillor Jowell, we'll hold you over. Thank you. Let's move on. Councillor Majinga.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Good morning, Alderman Mayor, wherever you are, and good morning to the citizens of Cape Town. Mayor, Madam Speaker, the adjustment budget is a process of revising and updating the budget to reflect changes in the financial situation, priorities, and unexpected events. It is always in our minds that at times we may receive unanticipated allocations and or changes in grant. We also, however, accept and happy about the city accepting the grant that has been given to it to deal with the projects that are mentioned, your managed settlements, your Pusasa Link, your military heights, your campus, your land acquisition, your Greenville housing project, your Sheffield. We must also thank the 29th of May 2024 elections for closing the space for rejecting this money. We are well aware about your argument of spending this money within the end of June. You wouldn't have done otherwise given the political situation on your doorstep. In the similar situation in the past where you should have been able to accept and spend the monies, you rejected them. We say if you would have had the proper efficient plan, you should have accepted those monies like you do today. Lastly, we are well aware and agree with your anticipated sentiment that this reduction of PEP is going to have a negative impact on employment. That is fair enough, but we also suggest alternative cost savings that should be able to help the situation. We so accept the adjustment, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Majingo. So the item is carried. Thank you. So item CO5, Councillor Joel, that is agreed to now. Thank you. We move on to the next item, which is item 13, and the recommendations are on page 293. And the first speaker there is Councillor Mukutswana. Councillor, are you going to speak to this item?
Yes, I'm speaking, Madam.
Okay, we can't hear you. Carry on, thank you.
Good morning to everybody. This is item 3, C3, granting aid allocation for 2023 to 2024. Sub-Council 10 is very happy that our organization residing in our areas are benefiting from these monies coming from councillors of City of Cape Town, which is part of the city. But Chairperson, we are saying we agree with this item. But I want just to say, Speaker, just now I listened to the mayor was speaking really and bragging about a crime that is fighting for the City of Cape Town. Really, it's true that it's fighting for the City of Cape Town, only for the rich side. But in our community in Khayelitsha, we are having crime every single day. And we are saying we are having cameras which are not working. Meanwhile, we are saying we are fighting criminals. But we are saying the City of Cape Town has got two cities, black and for the whites. You are serving only Sea Point and also, what do you call this area? Durbanville. So our areas, we are struggling. So thank you very much, Speaker. We agree with the item. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Makiti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this item is a request to Council to approve the proposed grant in aid allocations for 2023-2024 financial year, totaling 100,000, as recommended by Sub-Council and supported by the Grant in Aid Technical Committee. This funding, Madam Speaker, will allow these organizations to provide interventions desperately needed by these communities. The organizations, with the exception of Azoise Rehab Center, received this funding from the city in the past, and it was spent efficiently and timeously. And there were no issues that were reported during the course of this program. These organizations are running programs that are in support of the city's developmental programs, like the Early Childhood Development and the city's Substance Abuse Program. The application complies with the city's grant in aid policy, and we have no reason not to support it, Madam Speaker. The issues that are raised by Councillor Mkutswana, I don't know if these organizations will be operating in Seapoint or elsewhere. But the policies that are created by the city are meant for the whole city of Cape Town. That is why we are then able to assist organizations in his area, not only in Seapoint and wherever that he is suggesting. So we support the recommendations, Madam Speaker, on page 293. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The recommendation is on page 293. Are we all in agreement? Thank you. Then we move on to item 14, and the first speaker there is Councillor Budgetary.
Good morning, Speaker, Mayor, colleagues, media, online viewers, and especially for Carl van der Vyver, who should have been in the council with me today. Faith Plus is a party with Christian values and believe that ethics form part of our values and is not changeable for any bribery or wrongdoing. And we will speak out and report unethical behavior to enforce the ethics code. You cannot run a business in any sphere of government without a well-structured ethical code. An ethical code is a living document that can change from time to time as business are run to make sure that any new organizational values are adopted in the ethical code. It is important that each and every employee in the city, in the metro, including mayor, top management, you, Speaker, all the councillors, even the EPWP workers signed the ethical code for accountability. FF Plus support the adoption of the updated ethics code. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Satoshi. Councillor Mukungwana, is that a point of order that you want to raise or a point of clarity? All right. We will get Councillor Satoshi first, and then you can clarify in the iron box. Councillor Satoshi, Alderman Satoshi. Alderman Satoshi.
Speaker.
Yes, Councillor Mokongwana.
I've just written the complaint that I wanted to raise to you, Speaker, by the time we were waiting for the mayor to table item C4. I was not able to unmute myself, so I didn't know what the problem was because I couldn't respond to any questions that you were asking from all the parties. But now I happen to have been unmuted.
Okay, but Councillor, that is a mayor's question time. It's not there for everybody else to respond to. So we only unmute you when it's your time to speak or if you indicate a point of order or point of clarity in the iron box.
No, Speaker, what I wanted to talk was when you were waiting for the mayor who could not be connected.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to raise an issue then, but I couldn't unmute myself.
Okay, but that's why we have the iron box. But thank you for that, and then we will watch the iron box. Thank you. Councillor August, do you have a point of order? What is it that you wish to speak to? We're waiting for Councillor Satoshi. If we don't have Councillor Satoshi, we're going to move on. Councillor August, just indicate if it's a point of clarity you wish to raise or a point of order. Councillor Satoshi, are you available to speak or are we moving on from you? All right, Councillor.
I'm just quickly checking Councillor Satoshi. Sorry for budget again. He did indicate earlier that he's got network challenges, but let me call him quickly.
All right, in the meantime, we're going to move on. Thank you. Councillor August, you may comment.
Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'd like to say on this platform, I'd like to say that I'm resigning with immediate effect from good, and that you please do not count my vote when you total up goods total. Thank you.
That is noted. We'll take that under advisement. Thank you, Councillor, for that. Do we have Councillor Satoshi yet, or can we move on? Okay, Councillor Satoshi has network problems. Can we move on to Councillor Bandeza, please?
Hi, Speaker.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Thanks very much, Speaker. Speaker, ethics is the cornerstone of a safe, just, and prosperous communities. The city's ethics code is indicative of this administration's commitment to ethical leadership and good governance. It reflects our values and vision and serves as a guiding light on good corporate conduct for both employees and management. As such, it needs to reflect any changes to the city's organizational values. That is why we are considering this item today. Along with the updates of the organizational values, the executive mayor and the city manager have also updated their respective forwards to the code. Speaker, I therefore move that the council adopts the updated City of Cape Town Ethics Code as attached in Annexure A. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we all in favor of the adoption of the new ethical code? Thank you. Anyone against? It's good to see that we all are standing by our sense of good ethics. Can we move on then to the next item, which is item 18, and the recommendations are on page 451. And the first speaker for that is Councillor Jacobson. Councillor Jacobson. Councillor, sorry, before you start, Councillor Williams, what is your point? Councillor Nigel Williams, what is your point? Is it clarity or point of order?
Speaker?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Is it a point of order or point of clarity? Yes, you're audible.
Speaker, with immediate effect, I am resigning as a councillor from the NCC. So please do not count my attendance as a registered vote.
Okay, that is noted, and we'll also take that under advisement, but thank you very much for that. Can we move on now to our speakers? Councillor Jacobson.
Honourable Mayor, fellow councillors, reckless, sorry, I'm going to, if you don't mind, just put in my speaker to get better clarity. I apologise for the delay. You can take it off. I apologise once again.
Yes, move on. Yes,
reckless, fruitless, wasteful expenditure is equivalent to mismanagement, misappropriation of funds. We always talk about a clean audit. When it comes to social development and early childhood development in general, including arts and culture, we throw lots and lots of money at this department. In fact, so much political campaigning goes around social development without honest care and accountability. As said before, both social development and early childhood, in my opinion, is the most important department and portfolio in the city. And as I said, we throw enormous amounts of money here for political leverage, but without accountability. That must stop. We have an obligation and responsibility to the taxpayer. By way of example, for financial year 22 to 23, we assigned 94 million to City Shelter and Safe Space with a reintegration rate, listen to this, of 3.2%, a success rate of 3.2%. That means the taxpayer, it costs 848,000 per reintegrated person. There were 51,000 engagement with street people and only 112 reintegrated. What a complete failure. This is a disaster, and I expect 2024 to be worse. However, Honourable Speaker, my biggest concern is the signing of budget to the various arts and culture NGOs is a lack of accountability and transparency. Who looks deeply into these NGOs? Who are they? Who are the MDs and managers? What salaries are they drawing? Remembering it's a profitable thing to be an NGO. And how successful are they? And importantly, are these NGOs aligned and supportive of the city? I mean, what are we dealing with talking to Carlos Mosquito when we know his history? And then the mayor was engaging with NGOs whose members hauled the city into the courts. Remember the Gelderblom case. I trust that the mayor did not promise them funding. In summary, we can ill afford, nor is it righteous or productive to throw huge sums of money at these NGOs without accountability and success. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor van der Ross.
Good morning, Speaker. Am I audible?
Yes, continue.
Good morning, colleagues. I am not sure what is reckless about creating opportunities. I'm not sure what is wasteful about creating and making sure that there's a development of skills within the art sphere. I'm not sure what is reckless and wasteful if we are trying to build an economic platform for our artists, Speaker. So as the DA-run City of Cape Town, we have again showed how we make sure that we have the economic opportunity through this grant. I'm sure that our colleagues have read the report, Speaker, and they've seen the process where the advert went out in September 2023. Furthermore, the advert ran at sub-council level because we wanted to make sure that all NGOs, NPOs that is in this particular sphere, in the social development, in arts and culture, have an opportunity to actually participate and make use of the public participation unit in actually to get the communities involved in this specific thing, Speaker, and in this specific grant. All the participants that we've received on the 28th of October has been screened. There has been screened against the criteria, the scorecard. We've got our own grant in aid department that looks through all of this. Finally, the grant in aid committee met, Speaker, to consider these applications, and the amount of 3.2 million has been set aside for the financial year in order to make sure that our artists in this city of Cape Town is able to not only develop, produce, but also display the talent that they have. And we all know, Speaker, that we've got a couple of weeks to go before we hit the polls. And we shouldn't forget the mismanagement of the 300 million rand that was under the ANC national government that was earmarked to relieve artists during the time of lockdown, which went for wasteful expenditure. Some of our artists have suffered. And although they might have axed the MEC of the time, Speaker, yet our artists paid the brunt. But we as a Democratic Alliance, we are different. Us op it, Speaker. And we really want to make sure that as this current led administration in the city of Cape Town, the successful organizations who have applied in this program will now be able to expand, they will be able to build, they will be able to develop their programs and their initiatives through visual and performing arts in the respective communities. So, Speaker, again, I say, as the DA-led city of Cape Town, we realize our values as to govern, and we realize that we need to create an opportunity for all. So I want to say thank you to those organizations that led in this grant in aid and that has applied in this grant in aid, that is now the voice of some of our artists. And I support the recommendation on pages 452, and I wish my colleagues do the same. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Are there any parties against the recommendation? Can we move the recommendation on page 451, 452? Thank you. Then it's carried. The next item is on volume 2B, and that's item 20. And the first speaker there is once again Councillor Jacobson.
Good day, Honourable Speaker. This is a no-brainer. We have 50 SIDs in Cape Town, and there should be no reason why we don't assign a SID to Camps Bay. In fact, all SIDs should be supported. We must just be careful. We are not replacing the delivery of service by the city. We're just topping it up. And with this massive lawless behavior on the streets, we need visible policing, whether it's neighborhood watches, community walks, law enforcement patrols, and certainly city improvement districts. I understand that the relatively new SID at Clifton is doing extremely well, and the Voortrek corridor SID, of course, is outstanding all the time. And the answer to a successful SID appears to be the grade of security personnel that they deploy. Grade A and Grade B security is fine. Lower grades are not fine. I trust Camps Bay SID will be well received, as the attacks on visitors and residents have been prolific and out of control. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Joel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the speech from Councillor Jacobson actually for once was on the item. I think that has taken me a little bit by surprise. That would be a first in this council that I'm aware of. So thank you, Councillor Jacobson. Absolutely. I think we don't need to debate the fact that SIDs do fantastic work, and their history shows that across the city. Madam Speaker, the value of the SID is there. With over 50 in the city, we see that clearly the top-up services that they're able to provide the city has great impact. The steering committee for the Camps Bay SID have wasted no time in going through the statutory processes required to get to this point, with extensive public participation undertaken. They have exceeded the 60% vote that is required by obtaining 67.9% of the residents who are in favour of this SID being formed. 3.5% of the residents have objected, and I have read through all their submissions and note those comments made. Madam Speaker, Camps Bay is unique and a special place for the many who live there and visit there. I have no doubt that the SID will only enhance this experience, and through the top-up services it will provide, it will be able to do more and enhance the experience and circumstances for every resident of Camps Bay. I urge Councillor Jacobson to have a read through the SID Act to understand what is allowed and permissible by a SID, specifically in reference to his comment about security grade officers that should be part of the SID. It's only through being informed of council policies and procedures that we can actually adequately comment on these matters and these issues. Madam Speaker, unlike others, there's no need to draw out my speech and grab a quick, desperate soundbite for social media. Let's move forward, Madam Speaker, as the city administration does on a daily basis with rapid speed. I so move the item.
Thank you. The item is the recommendations on page 1. Is there anyone against the recommendation? Thank you. Then the item is carried, and we move on to the next one, which is volume 3, and that's item 22 with the recommendation on page 1 and 2. And the first speaker there is Councillor Kotti.
Good morning, Speaker. Can you
hear me? Yes, thank you.
Speaker, on item 22 that relates to urban 2225 in Bellville of Oak Road in Bellville. The ANC agrees on this item, but we just want to raise a couple of concerns. Although this particular urban is about just over 1,000 square meters. The problem is that this matter came to council about 2 years ago on the 20th of May 2022. And the purpose for this, now, and it took us almost 2 years to bring this to conclusion. And the application is for parking development. And obviously the city will gain about just over 2.2 million rand from the purchasing. The only difficulty that we have, Speaker, is that why is it not going to public auction? Although that we are talking about disposal of the urban, the report talks about giving this particular property to a company called the Tiger Kombuis Pty Limit. And currently the property owner is leasing this property and the facility, the kitchen facility that is on the site to this company, only on a rental basis. But our concern is that why is it not going to public auction with the disposal instead of we selling it off to the particular company called the Tiger Kombuis Limited. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor de Blanche.
Good morning, Speaker, Mayor, Aldermen, Councillors and City of Cape Town officials. Isn't it an honor and privilege to live in the beautiful City of Cape Town and the Western Cape? The Western Cape works. Which other province can say the same? But before I am accused of electioneering, let's make progress possible together. I am still amazed that Councillor Cotti and the ANC agreed with this transfer. It's a great day for democracy. Before wasting further time, what I will do is next time, because I hear a lot of things about Durbanville, and so what I will do is I'll invite the ANC over, and then I'll show them around Durbanville and Bellville, and so that they can see from their own perspective why this piece of land is being sold to adjacent property, as there is no as it creates a security risk to the adjacent properties, and the abutting owner of R39829 Bellville, the Tiger Kombuis Pty Limited, approached the City of Cape Town to purchase the portion of land to alleviate the risk of crime and antisocial behavior. Thank you very much.
The recommendation is there in front of us. Are we all in favour of the recommendation? Thank you very much. We move then on to the next item, which is item 23, with a recommendation on page 46. Councillor Fasaki.
Speaker, good morning. The changes are as per the report, and there are no other changes to be read in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we all agree to the changes? Thank you. Then we move on to volume 4, and the first item is item 24. Councillor, this is for the Mayor to respond to the questions. Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lombi, you had a question on page 1, and your responses are on page 1 to 3 of the separate document. Have you got a follow-up question?
Speaker, no, I don't have a follow-up question.
Thank you.
I read the answer.
Thank you very much. Then we move on to the next one, which is question 25. Councillor Thompson, you have one question, but this will have to stand over till the next council meeting as agreed in the programming committee. And then if we move to the next item, which is motions, we have a motion, item 26 from Councillor Dambuza. Would you like to table your motion as on pages 3 to 8?
No, greetings to the whole council, and thank you very much, Speaker. It's quite odd that you are closing us as whips, and yet you are giving people to resign in this platform. But in terms of the motion, the EFF would like to table the motion that will benefit all political parties within the election process, that in any election platform, you are allowed to be able to campaign freely and be able to put out banners the same way that you are able to put up posters, as all political parties have a right to go out and be able to campaign freely here in South Africa and in the city of Cape Town. We have seen some of the political parties utilizing banners even in other municipalities, particularly the DA, particularly the ANC, including other political parties that are here within the city of Cape Town. So this comes in as a platform that gives all of us a chance to give a proper running of the elections and have a free and fair process. Thank you very much.
All right, you just were supposed to read the motion, but it's fine. The first speaker on this item is Alderman Andrews.
Speaker, good morning. And just to respond to Councillor Buza, I think the provisions have been made to accommodate all political parties in the city of Cape Town. It is part of our election rules that all parties have been informed of. But I suspect that we are conflicting issues here. So the provisions that we have allowed for this election period would be for parties who are campaigning, who are registered and independent candidates. They don't have to pay the poster fee when they flight their posters. Those are the provisions that have been made. Also part of the election rules would be the requirement from the City of Cape Town that you're only allowed to flight your posters on our streetlights. It's not allowed on any other piece of infrastructure. It's not allowed to be pasted on any piece of infrastructure. We, of course, would then engage with the political party and ask them to remove those posters. What my learned colleague is asking for is made, a provision is made for in the bylaw. So you're well within your rights as any political party to make an application as prescribed in Schedule 10 of the bylaw that you would like to flight a banner if it is an event related to any particular campaign. That's a different process. That's an application, and you'd have to pay the application fee. That is allowed. So I suspect that those two processes have been conflated, but the bylaw does make provision. So in light of that, and given that we do accommodate such requests, Speaker, we cannot accept this motion. It's no longer valid, it's mute, and we ask that the party submits an application as prescribed in the bylaw.
No, thank you very much, Speaker. I think the Deputy Mayor maybe did not clearly understand. This is a motion that is based on the fact that the City of Cape Town lost this in 2021 in court, where banners should be allowed on poles, street poles, so light poles, so that they are able to be displayed. So the position that is putting out that they are not allowed, it's actually something that the City of Cape Town lost in court in 2021. And the City of Cape Town should be giving political parties the platform to be able to campaign the same way that they've been utilizing posters and banners, not just all. Posters and banners, not just one. You can utilize posters or you can utilize banners, both of them the same way. So the Deputy Mayor must not be confused in this thing. This process has been utilized in 2021, where banners were up after a court case was won by the EFF. And we're asking that the process to be placed here as a motion. And if then the DA does not want to, then let's make it clear that we'll meet you in court again and go through the process again. Thank you very much.
All right. Do we need to vote on this? There is a motion from
Speaker.
Councillor Alderman Andrews.
Speaker, so I'm happy to respond to the point that Councillor Boozer made. And that particular matter in 2021, there was an anomaly that we were made aware of, in that the bylaw at the time did not specify clearly that the process that need to be considered would include banners. So we, in our election rules, we are saying we're making provisions, and the provision that we're making are only for posters. That's why I reference Schedule 10 of the bylaw that now explicitly states what must be considered, the process that needs to be followed when you would like to flight a banner. So currently, that process now exists in the bylaw that has been approved in 2023. And there's no court proceedings currently underway. So if there's a legal application, the courts have been approached by the EFF, we'll of course will respond to that. We are fairly confident that the bylaw makes provision and that process should be followed, and therefore we can't entertain this motion today. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. So if we're not entertaining the motion, let's put it to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, Councillor Claassen from ARA, are you speaking to this item before we go to a vote? Councillor Claassen?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to state categorically that the ARA councillors at this stage will never ever
No,
resign.
we're talking about this item, please. Do you have a comment on this item before we go to the vote?
We will not resign from council.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. The item, there is a motion on the table. Those in favor of the motion indicate. Those against the motion indicate. The motion is lost. Thank you. We move on to the next item, and that is item 32 in terms of the recommendation on page 102 and 104. The first speaker on this item is Councillor Pengezi. Councillor Pengezi, are you there?
Speaker.
Yes, continue. I can hear you.
Oh, thanks, Speaker. Speaker, as much as ANC does not have a problem on this recommendation set out page 102 to 103, ANC is of the view that this advisory committee should not be partisan. Speaker, ANC call upon on the executive mayor to consider representations of political parties to form part of this committee for transparency. Speaker, together we will do more for our communities. Divided will fail our communities. Speaker, take note, the ministry itself exercses non-partisan approach in accommodating municipalities. The ministry did not look at municipalities through the lenses of political affiliation. We want to say to the committee, if Speaker, ANC want to send a message to the executive mayor. The ball is in your hand. The ball is in your court, mayor. All we are calling for a unit on this matter. We will monitor this committee. Ngoba siyayazi Speaker ukuthi kuzawubenefita abantu be-DA bodwa kwezi permits. Abantu bethu bazawusokola, as we know that even i-taxi owners ziyasokola in terms of permits. So the ANC note this item. Thanks, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lansdowne.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Unfortunately, the ANC is a miss today because in the original terms of reference and composition of this committee, we did have opposition members, but the statements made by the Speaker from the ANC and the opposition today indicated that they have not been conducting or participating oversight in this committee. This is a public committee, and I've not once seen an ANC member pitch up to this committee meeting to participate fully. The door is open. But what I must say, Madam Speaker, is that one of my first formative political memories was the cholera epidemic next door in Zimbabwe. I was a young child, and it made a profound impact on me when learning that 4,500 people died because of dirty water. And we are seeing scary similarities across South African cities today. You don't need to look any further than Hartbeespoort Dam, where residents cannot appreciate that natural asset, which all residents will use. And that is because there is sewage flowing into that water body constantly. You don't need to look any further than the beaches in Durban, where the delinquent mayor of eThekwini went and swam in dirty water, endangering the lives of his own residents. And when in 2021, Mayor Heer Lewis was elected, he committed as one of his key pledges to clean up our aquatic and natural environments in Cape Town. Little did we know that this rate of decline across the country would be so significant in the 2 years since then. So our job in Cape Town through this committee has been to show and lead the way for cities across the world and in South Africa that you can conduct transparent, open environmental governance and improve and reverse declining conditions of environments. And in that regard, Madam Speaker, the science proves it, not the politics, the science. We've had blue flags open for the entire festive season where the water quality is safe for our visitors and our residents to use and enjoy. In the last calendar year, 365 days, we've not had a single water body, recreational water body, closed due to pollution incidents that made it unsafe. This is all underpinned by scientific governance. We are constantly testing our water quality on our coastline and in our recreational water bodies to make sure that they are safe for all residents and the natural environment. And a key part of this has been the innovation of the Section 80 Inland Water Quality Committee. And if the councillor in the opposition was more diligent, as they should be in areas where they govern, the councillor would then know that this committee is made up mostly of independent water experts, independent engineers, independent ex officio water activists, the best and brightest minds that bring advice and direct scientific oversight to the water program that we are implementing in the city of Cape Town. The changes to the terms of reference in this committee are an endorsement of this approach that we are taking to co-govern with our stakeholders, experts, and community partners. We are committed to improving and making sure that every resident and visitor in South Africa that comes to Cape Town knows that the water quality is clean. And so we are pushing the boundaries of water governance in local government once again. Today, the terms of reference that we hope this council will adopt will allow for our experts and the best and brightest minds to conduct not only oversight and advise on the aquatic and coastal environments in our city, but also now conduct oversights on the infrastructure which affects
Conclude.
I hereby move that council adopts the recommendations in this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any councillors against the recommendation? It's for noting. Thank you very much. Then the item is noted. We move on to the next item, which is item 33, and the reports on the recommendations on page 115. This is also for noting. The first speaker is Councillor Rousseau, Boeta Rousseau.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the staff complement, as indicated March 2024, shows vacant posts of 3,553 and how it was filled, with 1,535 terminations since the start of the financial year. What I wish to bring under the attention of the House is that it seems that some of the filling of the posts takes too long. The reason why I say that, as you know, I serve on the Impact Portfolio Committee, and very often there is, let's call it for mitigation reasons, I call it excuses, that senior management will in their reports mention due to wrongdoing, wrong things that happen, that is before we investigate. I can promise you after investigation, we came to a conclusion that was fair, but they use the following words. I don't mention the name of the department, but it was under extreme pressure during this period to address the excessive workload due to the loss in internal capacity through vacancies experienced. So I would like to suggest that filling of posts must be very quicker so that we don't get excuses like that on the impact portfolio committee, because then we know that the filling was done decently.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker.
Councillor Majinga.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think some of the points raised by Councillor Rousseau are very important. But this report reveals a concerning trend of underspending, which may have far-reaching consequences for the city. The report shows a significant underspending against our total budget. This underutilization of funds may indicate inefficient resource allocation, missed opportunities, or inadequate planning. Key initiatives and projects may be delayed due to this. The underspending may also lead to reduced capacity, hindering the ability to respond to emerging challenges and capitalize on opportunities. We are therefore, as ANC, suggesting, in order for us to avoid the deficit situation and not work under pressure, 1, we must conduct a thorough review of budget allocation and spending processes to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvements. 2, we must think about reallocating funds to priority areas and projects, ensuring aligned with strategic objectives. 3, we must implement measures to enhance financial management monitoring and reporting to prevent future underspending. Lastly, Madam Speaker, we know that some of those officials are there due to cadre deployment, but what we are saying is provide training to them, support them to ensure effective resource utilization and management. If these can be addressed, we can optimize our resources, drive service delivery and economic growth. That will maximize our impact. We are therefore noting the item, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Alderman Moodley.
Good day, Madam Speaker. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, carry on, please.
As at the end of March, the actual expenditure amounted to 5.2 billion of the budgeted allocation of 11.3 billion. This represents 46.2% spend of the latest adjustments budget in 23-24. The expenditure quantum is the most ever recorded as at the end of the third quarter. Last year, at the end of the third quarter, the city had spent 3.6 billion, which represents 45.9% of the approved budget of 22-23. Of the 5.2 billion spent to date, Water and Sanitation Services managed to spend 1.6 billion, largely resulting from their large infrastructure projects such as Potsdam wastewater treatment works. Commitments recorded in the system as at end of the third quarter was approximately 3.9 billion. It should be noted that there is in fact still 4 months of the expenditure which must filter through the accounting system until financial year end. Example, payments in April for work done in March, as well as expenditure to be incurred for the months of April, May and June, to give effect to the accrual system of accounting. The city is experiencing the highest cash flow ever on the capital stream at this time of the year. Madam Speaker, there's been a focus on bringing anticipated monthly spends forward to earlier months to reduce the peak typically seen in the last quarter of a financial year. A commitment is important as it is a key to the delivery, implementation, and then the outflow of cash. Without a commitment, this is not possible. The administration is gearing to reach their targets and also exceed it. As at 15th of April, USDG has spent 60%, projected to spend 92%, with the rest of the largely contractually committed as at the end of 30 June 2024. Informal settlements grant has spent 76%, projected to spend and commit around 100% as at the end of our financial year. Our challenges: after more than 5 weeks, the city is still waiting for the National Department of Human Settlements to approve the revised USDG and ISUPG business plans. The impact is that we have lost almost a month of spending ability on some projects of the USDG and the ISUPG. One of the biggest threats to the delivery of our project is the construction mafia and extortionists. May I take this opportunity to record our gratitude and appreciation to every staff member and contractor in the city that continues to drive the positive outcomes intended by the capital program that has been set by Council to achieve the objectives as set out in our IDP. If it was not for dedicated staff and vendor community, this would not be possible. The council must allow these professionals to get on with the job, and we must stop trying to unsettle them by creating smoke and mirrors, by standing on the sidelines and criticizing. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The report is for noting. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Can we note that report? That brings us to the conclusion of volume 4. There is a volume 5. It's all agreed. Okay, so then that concludes this open session of the meeting. Before we move on to the confidential item, can I ensure that the officials cut the YouTube link and that only the